Hello, and thanks for watching another edition of ARFCOM News. Today I want to tell you about why we should be happy the governor of Ohio broke his promise, what real girl power looks like, and we'll try to figure out what a body vest is and why New York is trying to ban them. But before we get started, I want to tell you about the fine, barrel-aged, single malt night vision products offered to you by our friends at TNVC.com, just like Mom used to make. If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night. The governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, broke his promise to veto the Stand Your Ground bill passed by the legislature, and he signed it into law. The legacy media typically goes full pearl clutching over these so-called Make My Day laws, and they go to great lengths to make it sound like they're some kind of license to kill. But in reality, they simply remove the duty to retreat, which is required by statute in some cases. That is, some states require a person to attempt to run away before using deadly physical force to defend themselves from an attack. That might sound reasonable, but in practice, it means a person has to prove to the court they had no other choice than to shoot. And the problem with that is it puts the burden of proof on the accused, which is fundamentally at odds with the U.S. Constitution and centuries of English common law. Here in my home state of Arizona, a man named Harold Fish was railroaded at trial back in the days when we had a duty to retreat. Fish spent many years in prison before finally being released on appeal. He was incarcerated after shooting a man and two dogs while hiking alone. Fish says he shot the man's dogs when they attacked him, which enraged the man who also attacked him. Unfortunately for Harold Fish, there were no witnesses to the event. Of the two people present, he was the only one who survived. The physical evidence only supported what happened, but was no help in proving why he shot. The dead man had a screwdriver in his pocket and a long history of violence, but those facts weren't heard at trial because Fish couldn't have known them. And Fish was a school teacher with a clean record, so there's no reason to doubt his story. But ultimately, there were no witnesses and no way for Fish to prove he acted in self-defense. At the time, the burden of proof rested on the accused, and that's precisely the problem with the duty to retreat.
Fish!
Today's fish is trout a la creme. Enjoy your meal.
Fish!
Today's fish is trout a la creme. Enjoy your meal.
Fish!
Today's fish is trout a la creme. Enjoy your meal.
I will.
It's possible DeWine acquiesced to the logical argument that placing the burden of proof on the accused is wrong. It's possible he understood it endangers people by causing them to attempt to flee before defending themselves, which means by the time they do use force to defend, their attacker will certainly be closer and they may have already struck them. It's even possible DeWine understands this dangerous situation puts the attacker at greater risk too. Most defensive uses of a gun don't even involve shots fired. But by requiring the victim to flee, by making the encounter happen at contact distance, you remove the option of just displaying the firearm to stop an attack. The only choice left is a bad breath distance magazine dump into the bad guy's hydraulic systems. It's possible DeWine understands all these things, but I think it's a lot more likely he has seen the writing on the wall and understands the surge in new gun owners over the last year means gun control talk is political seppuku. Last year, Americans bought more than 21 million new guns. That's half again as many as 2019, and 40% of them were purchased by new gun owners. A staggering number of people own guns who never did before. Does that mean they're instantly transformed into Punisher shirt-wearing, Gadsden-flying threepers shouting, "Shall not be infringed" over the Thanksgiving dinner? Probably not. But it does mean a huge number of people see guns in a fundamentally different way than they did before. They now have at least an inkling of how guns function, and they got a first-hand look at the gun laws already in place for buying a gun. This is the part where I give my standard disclaimer about NICS numbers. The National Instant Check System processes background checks for firearm purchases, but doesn't represent the full number of gun sales because CCW permits and FOID cards are used in lieu of an instant check in some states. It also, obviously, doesn't track face-to-face transfers, but these numbers do represent a general finger on the pulse of gun buying and indicate a massive increase in the number of guns purchased overall. Recently elected Congress Lady Lauren Boebert from, folks, I can't make this up, Rifle, Colorado, runs Shooter's Grill, which is famous for openly armed staff. Boebert has all the normies ooked out because she intends to continue carrying her Glock while serving Colorado in the notoriously crime-ridden Capitol wasteland. She points out junior lawmakers like her don't have an armored motorcade and 24/7 Praetorian Guard. She will be walking to work each day through one of the most dangerous cities in the country. Thankfully, D.C. is now shell issue, meaning she should have no trouble securing a concealed carry permit, and predictably, lawmakers exempted themselves from the federal law which prohibits firearms on the Capitol grounds. That law was passed in 1967, the same year the Mulford Act was passed in California, and for the same racist reasons. There is no way to know how many Congress critters keep a gun in their office right now, but 21 of them urged Nancy Pelosi to change the rule, and 82 of them cautioned her not to. Pelosi said she's against Congress members carrying on the Capitol grounds, but thought the rule change should be made by the Capitol Police Board. Every so often, authoritarian control freaks try again to ban body armor. Banning a purely defensive tool is so absurd these sort of things rarely make it anywhere, but I think it's still important you know about it, and this one does have some extra lulls. New York Assembly Bill A352 would ban body vests, which has me like super confused. A vest by definition only covers the chest, right? Like many states, an already existing New York statute made it illegal to wear body armor while committing a violent felony and defined body vest thusly. The interesting bit is it only applies to soft body armor. So if this stupid law somehow managed to make it out of committee and get passed, I guess you can still rock your PC. But even if hard plates weren't illegal, they are so easy to make there is simply no point trying to ban them. 3 high-grade porcelain floor tiles glued to each other with a decent epoxy or bed liner and affixed to a polyethylene cutting board, or even more bed liner, or really anything reasonably tough is enough to stop most handgun and some rifle rounds. But if you want to weigh in on this law, the link in the description goes to the New York Assembly website where you can indicate your support or opposition to a bill. Frankly, I think this is how all states should handle each matter before their respective houses. I'm impressed. Please note that if you enter an address which is not in New York, your position won't be recorded. Industry news! Keltech has a reputation for coming up with rad new designs, then never really making enough to meet demand. I sure hope that's not the case for their new P50. It's a big-ass 5.7mm pistol which takes FN P90 magazines. Now, I'm not the biggest fanboy for 223 short, but there is no denying this pistol is heckin' cool, and with a 9.5-inch barrel, it should produce some pretty rowdy velocities comparable to the P90's 10-inch barrel at about 2,000 feet per second, give or take. That's theoretically enough to create rifle-like tearing from the temporary cavity, and if you can find a projectile which will penetrate adequately, it could be a potent little beast when compared to other more traditional pistol calibers. But even if it wasn't all that gnarly, did you forget the part where you got 50 of them?
Nobody ever eat 50 eggs.
The top half, which houses the barrel and bolt, hinges open to reload, and the magazine is inserted upside down relative to the FN P90. It has built-in sling swivel QD cups, but no provision for a brace so far as I can tell. Although, if pistol braces continue to be a thing, a third party could certainly work up an adapter to plug into those sling swivel cups. It weighs 3.2 pounds unloaded, so you'll likely need a brace or a sling to stabilize it. MSRP is $9.95, but that includes 2 P90 magazines, so that's a win, right? Well, friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy watching these things because I sure like making them for you. If you want to help us keep bringing you banger content like this, please support the folks who support us. Not only does TNVC.com carry a wide selection of low-carb, fat-free, non-GMO night vision products, they also have mounts, lights, and all sorts of other gear to make you the bump in the night. And if you want to support us more directly, you can buy fly shirts like this one in our Teespring store. Or, if you'd like to try your luck and see if you can win your choice of rad shirt from our Teespring store, post a comment containing the phrase
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room
in the YouTube comments, and I will arbitrarily and unilaterally choose the best one. I love you.